Hi, my name is Caroline Kabiri, and I'm going to be discussing Dr. Carrie S. Barrero, an influential researcher in the field of behavior analysis. So let me go ahead and share my screen so that I can share my presentation with you. So, Dr. Carrie S. Barrero earned her master's and her PhD from the University of Florida in 2006. She's a board certified behavior analyst, and starting in 2007 until present and currently is an assistant professor at Johns Hopkins in Psychiatry and Behavior Sciences Department. From 2007 until currently, she's a senior behavior analyst in Pediatric Feeding Disorders Program in Baltimore, Maryland at the Kennedy Krieger Institute. She's also currently the co-director for the Maryland Association of Behavior Analysis. Dr. Carrie S. Barrero has several areas of interest. In particular, she focuses her research on feeding disorders at mealtime, self-feeding, parent-child interactions, and caregiver training. The main population that she studies is children with developmental delays, and in particular, she focuses on parent and child interactions. 3 articles that I selected to discuss in my research included these 3 that I've listed below. The first being Concurrent Reinforcement Schedules for Problem Behavior and Appropriate Behavior Experimental Applications of the Matching Law, which comes from the Journal of the Experimental Analysis of Behavior. The second article I selected was entitled A Method for Evaluating Parameters of Reinforcement During Parent-Child Interactions, which comes from the Research and Developmental Disabilities Journal. And finally, I'd selected Descriptive and Experimental Analyses of Potential Precursors to Problem Behavior, which comes from the Journal of Applied Behavior Analysis. These 3 articles in particular I discuss in my research paper. And in addition, I actually also used additional articles just for my own reference. These articles were entitled A Comparison of Descriptive and Functional Analyses of Inappropriate Mealtime Behaviors, and Combining Descriptive and Functional Analysis Logic to Evaluate Idiosyncratic Variables Maintaining Aggression. And these just gave me kind of a greater understanding of the kinds of research that Dr. Carrie Barrero has done and what she's focused on. So in my research findings, there were 3 main things that really stuck out in the articles that I selected to focus on. The first main idea or main point being that the matching law is important to keep in mind as behavior analysts when selecting reinforcement schedules to remediate problem behavior in children with developmental delays. So the matching law essentially states that when using reinforcement schedules, the reinforcement should match the child, and that's very important and key to creating effective reinforcement schedules. In addition, a main point that she makes is a variety of reinforcement schedules can be beneficial and effective in creating intervention plans. She specifically focuses, one of the articles discusses concurrent schedules, and she really hones in on the fact that delay to reinforcement can be a useful tool in creating effective reinforcement schedules for children, especially children with developmental delays that are exhibiting problem behaviors. And then finally, there is a direct correlation between the probability of an antecedent occurring and the occurrence of problem behavior. So she discusses that in detail in one of the articles that I researched. The 5 questions that I would ask her are as follows. What led you to focus specifically on researching pediatric feeding disorders? I would like to actually ask her more about what led her to do this kind of research. Number 2, are there certain criteria that you use to determine what schedule of reinforcement you will apply first, depending on the age of your population? So I'd be interested to know why or if she would kind of tailor her reinforcement schedules depending on the age of the children. And then more specifically, would you attempt a different schedule of reinforcement for a child versus an adult? And have you found that the results vary based on the age of the individual? Third, I'm curious about the prompt hierarchy you use when working with children with feeding disorders. Where do you start, and can you give specific examples of the prompts you might use with a child who is refusing to eat vegetables and throws tantrums when requested to do so? Fourth, is there ever a time when you felt that none of the reinforcement schedules were effective at reducing problem behaviors, and how did you address this? And fifth, what advice do you give to parents when teaching them how to implement reinforcement schedules? Why is Carrie Barrero's work important? Well, there are two main things that I feel were most beneficial in the research findings that she presented in the articles that I read. And the two things that I really I feel stick out about her influence in the field of applied behavior analysis is that she supports parents and caregivers in implementing effective intervention programming for children with developmental delays. And that secondly, her focus is on helping decrease problem behaviors such as aggression, yelling, and self-harm of children with developmental delays. I feel that she's a very valuable asset to the field of applied behavior analysis because not only is she researching reinforcement schedules that work, but she's also supporting parents and caregivers and teaching them how to usefully and how to implement these reinforcement schedules on their own so that they can help their children that have severe problem behaviors. Thank you so much for listening. I look forward to hearing your feedback.